The text came at 11:51 p.m. It wasn't a call. It was just a cold. Blue bubble on my screen from my mother. Brenda? The words were precise. Your father, Morgan, and I have agreed. You are no longer part of this family. I read it twice. And then, seconds later, a small icon appeared right next to her words. A heart. My sister, Morgan, had hearted the message. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I didn't even feel the hot sting of betrayal I was supposed to. It just felt cold. I set the phone down. Screen up. On my desk. I opened my laptop. The clock on the screen read 11:53 p.m. First, I logged into my bank. There was the recurring monthly transfer. Scheduled for the first of the month. Family Support Trust. $10,000. I clicked cancel. A small pop-up asked, "Are you sure?" I clicked confirm. Next, my American Express account. My sister, Morgan, was an authorized user. I looked at her recent activity, her European book tour. She called it Balenciaga in Paris, a 5-star hotel in Rome, all to support her literary critic blog. I clicked on her name. Remove user. Confirmed. Next, the hosting service for that very blog. It was billed to my account. Of course, a premium, high-traffic plan. I navigated to the billing section. Cancel subscription. The site warned me all data would be permanently deleted. I clicked proceed. Finally, my email. I pulled up the contact for the management company of the downtown penthouse Morgan lived in. The lease was in my name. I typed a short, polite message. To whom it may concern, this email serves as my official 30-day notice to terminate the lease for Unit 30B. I will not be renewing. I hit send. The clock read 12:03 a.m. 12 minutes. My phone, which had been dark, lit up. A call from Morgan. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. 10 seconds later, it lit up again. My mother, Brenda. I watched it ring. Then I picked up the phone, pressed the button on the side, and silenced it. I plugged it in to charge. Screen down. And went to make tea. To them, I was just Eliza. Eccentric Eliza. The 36-year-old who lived alone. Wore kit clothes. And had no stable job. My writing was a cute little hobby. Something they placated. They never asked how I paid my bills. They just assumed I was fine. To the rest of the world, I was E.M. Vance. My fantasy novels have sold millions of copies. I'm the reason my publisher had its best quarter in a decade. I'm the anonymous author the literary world is constantly trying to unmask. I stayed anonymous for one reason. It sounds naive now. Almost stupid. I wanted my family to love me. Elisa. The quiet one. The odd one. I didn't want them to love E.M. Vance. The brand. The ATM. I was terrified of them suddenly fawning over me. Not because they loved me, but because I was successful. I realize now. I had it all wrong. They didn't love Eliza. They were actively ashamed of her. And they didn't love E.M. Vance. They just felt entitled to her bank account. They never loved either version of me. They just used the version they were ashamed of to justify bleeding the other one dry. It was a classic psychological setup. My sister, Morgan, was the golden child. She was the bright, charming, social one. The future literary critic who was going to take the world by storm. But for that fantasy to work, For my mother, Brenda, to build her up. She needed a scapegoat. She needed a failure to compare her to. That was my role. I was the shadow. The quiet, unsuccessful, difficult one. My entire identity in that family was to be the dark backdrop that made Morgan's spotlight seem brighter. The only problem was, the shadow was paying for the lights. And I mean that literally la. When my father, Scott, made a bad investment 5 years ago, and the bank was 2 weeks from foreclosing on their house, it wasn't a miracle that saved them. It was me. $450,000, wired from a blind LLC I created. They told everyone it was a long-lost inheritance. When my father failed again last year, losing $75,000 on another one of his brilliant ideas, who quietly made the debt disappear? Me. Morgan's $10,000 book tour through Europe last spring. My money. Her penthouse apartment downtown. My lease. Her car. My name. I had been the silent, invisible investor in the performance of their lives. And what finally broke the contract? What was the ultimate betrayal that led to my official excommunication at 11:51 p.m.? I had refused to pay for a dinner party. Morgan was desperate to impress a man named Dylan, the new CEO of a major publishing house. She needed a lavish, catered party to prove she was in the know. She demanded I transfer $20,000 for it. And I, for the first time, said no. The ATM was broken. So, they threw it in the trash. I woke up to the digital equivalent of a mob. My phone screen was a solid wall of red notification bubbles. 22 missed calls. 41 text messages. They had started around 7 a.m. First, with confusion. Then rapidly escalating into pure, unfiltered rage. Morgan's were the most predictable. Elisa. My card was just declined at brunch. In front of Dylan. How humiliating. Fix it. Followed 10 minutes later by, I am not kidding. Elisa. Whatever little tantrum this is, it's not funny. Turn my card back on. I have to network. And finally, you are ruining my life. I'm supposed to be impressive. Do you know who he is? You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of me. You're trying to sabotage me because you have nothing. My mother's messages, however, were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Elisa, you have created a terrible, terrible mess. Your sister is hysterical. Dylan, the CEO, is very confused about why her credit card was declined right in front of him. You are actively destroying your sister's future over a petty disagreement. And then, this is not a joke. This is her entire career. You are being unbelievably selfish. You need to call us immediately. I read the words, selfish, jealous, destroying. Not a single message asked, Elisa, are you okay? Not one said. What did we do? They weren't shocked by their own cruelty. They were just shocked that I had finally stopped paying for it. My compassion hadn't been a relationship, it had been a subscription, and they were furious about the lapsed payment. I didn't reply to a single one. I just went and made coffee. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. It was a notification from Facebook. My mother, Brenda, had tagged me in a new public post. It was a long, winding paragraph, dripping with false piety. It's so heartbreaking when you raise your children. Give them everything. And they just forget. They forget where they came from. Gratitude is truly a lost art. Some children just decide to throw their family away over nothing. Praying for those who have such anger in their hearts. The comments underneath were a chorus of sympathy. Aunts, cousins, old family friends. Brenda, This is awful. Thinking of you, I can't believe it. You've been such a good mother, whoever she is. She sounds like a monster. She was painting me as the aggressor to the public, to anyone who would listen. I took a sip of my coffee. It was cold. I looked at that Facebook post, at the public performance of her victimhood, and I realized this wasn't just a family dispute anymore. She had made it public. She had made it a matter of reputation. Fine. I picked up my phone, but I didn't call her. I scrolled past her name, past Morgan's laugh, and I found the contact for Julia, my old friend from law school. Now, my attorney. I pressed call. Julia, I said when she answered. I need to retain your services. It's about my family. No. I don't want to reconcile. I want to draw up an invoice. I didn't call Julia to cry. I called her to strategize. Julia, I need to hire you. I said. My voice was perfectly flat. Eliza, what's wrong? Is it about your publisher? No. I said, looking at the Facebook post still glowing on my monitor. It's about my family. There was a pause. Julia knew. She'd seen glimpses of it for 20 years. Oh. Elisa. What did they do now? They've officially disowned me. What sent me a text last night? You are no longer part of this family. Signed. Mom. Dad. And Morgan. I heard her take a sharp breath. Elisa. I am so sorry. That's monstrous. Don't be. I said. It's clarifying. They think they fired me. They don't realize they just breached their contract. Julia was silent for a beat. Then her voice shifted from friend to lawyer. I understand, she said. What's the asset? Everything, I said. For the last 10 years. I need you to draft a formal demand letter. Not an emotional plea. I want an itemized invoice. I want them to see the numbers. Tell me everything. And I did. The $450,000 to stop the foreclosure on the house. The $75,000 to cover my father's failed investment. The $10,000 for Morgan's book tour to Europe. The 3 years of rent on the penthouse. The car. The endless American Express charges. Julia was quiet. The only sound was the rapid click, click, click of her keyboard. My God. Elisa. She murmured. You haven't been their daughter. You've been their silent financier. I'm not silent anymore. I said. I don't want to beg. I want to notify them. I'll draft a formal notice of intent. Julia said, in her voice now as cold and hard as steel. It will state that a full accounting of funds disbursed has been prepared. It will give them 30 days to contact this office and initiate a formal repayment plan. And if they don't, then we begin legal action to recover all assets, starting with placing a lien on the house they think they own. I clarified. The house you own? Elisa. She corrected. An hour later, a PDF was in my inbox. It wasn't a letter. It was a weapon. Calm. Factual. Lethal. It listed every date. Every wire transfer. Every dollar. The final number at the bottom was staggering. I emailed her back one word. Perfect. I didn't mail it. I didn't email it. I hired a professional process server. I wanted them to know the game had changed. I wanted a stranger in a suit to walk up their long driveway, ring their doorbell, and hand them the bill for my love. I wanted them to see, in their hands, on official legal paper, just how much nothing I really was. I let the silence sit for a week. I didn't answer the dozens of frantic, angry and finally pleading calls from my father, my mother, or Morgan. I let the legal notice, delivered by that stone-faced process server, do its work. I imagined the arguments, the panic, as they realized the family support trust wasn't a gift. It was a debt. I imagined them trying to move money, trying to figure out how to respond. Still believing they held some kind of moral high ground, I went back to work. I finalized a new international publishing deal. I lived my life. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, Julia called. Her voice wasn't warm this time. It was the clipped, precise tone she used in the courtroom. Elisa, I'm glad I reached you. I was doing the final due diligence on your literary LLC. The one you used to pay their mortgage. Just getting all our ducks in a row for the lien. And I asked. And I found something. She paused. There was a withdrawal 3 months ago. $50,000. The memo line just said, emergency author advance. I felt my stomach tighten. I never took an advance. Julia, you know that I fund the LLC. I don't draw from it. I know, she said. Her voice grim. That's why I pulled the physical bank request. I figured it was a clerical error. And it wasn't no. Someone walked into the branch with a signed withdrawal slip. I had the bank email me a scan of it. I waited. Elisa, she said. The signature on that slip isn't yours. I pulled the signed mortgage contracts you sent me. The ones Brenda signed when you bought the house. She didn't need to finish. I already knew. It's a perfect match. Isn't it? I said. My voice was hollow. A perfect match. Julia confirmed. This isn't just a family dispute over money they feel entitled to. Elisa, this isn't just ingratitude. This is forgery. This is felony theft. I hung up the phone. $50,000. My mother, Brenda, had walked into my bank, using papers I had given her access to for emergencies, and forged my name to steal from me. Probably to fund that very dinner party I had refused to pay for. The last flicker of doubt. The tiny, stupid ember of family obligation that still glowed in my chest went out. It was extinguished. Completely. They weren't just ungrateful. They weren't just parasites. They were criminals. And I was done. The 30 days passed. I didn't hear a word. Not a call. Not an email. Not from them or any lawyer they had supposedly hired. It was just silence. The 30-day deadline to respond to Julia's demand letter came and went. Then, on a Saturday morning, the silence broke. It wasn't a call. It was a frantic, desperate pounding on my apartment door. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a storm of fists. Someone hammering on the wood with both hands, as if the building were on fire. I walked calmly to the door and looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Brenda. Her face was puffy, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Beside her, my father, Scott, just looked gray. He looked like a hollowed-out shell, his face ashen. I opened the door. Brenda practically fell into the entryway. Eliza, thank God, you have to stop this. You have to call them off. She was hysterical, grabbing at my arm. Elisa, please, we're losing everything. I didn't move. I didn't pull my arm away. I just looked at her. Losing what? Brenda, the house, she shrieked, as if I were insane. The bank. They're foreclosing. They sent us a notice, and Morgan. That man, Dylan, He canceled her contract. He said her brand was toxic after he got a copy of your disgusting legal papers. She's ruined. She was sobbing now. Her face a mess. Elisa. Please. Please. Do something for your sister. For my sister. I repeated. The words felt like ash in my mouth. I looked at this woman. The one who had disowned me. The one who had forged my name. She wasn't begging for forgiveness. She was just demanding I turn the money back on. I already did. I said. My voice was so quiet. It cut right through her wailing. She stopped. Confused. What? I stepped back and picked up 2 envelopes from my hall table. I had prepared them this morning. I held them out to her. I already did something. I repeated. She stared at the envelopes. Her hands trembling. She took them. This one, I said, pointing to the first, is a copy of the final eviction notice. The bank has taken the house I paid for. She looked at it, uncomprehending. And this one, I said, pointing to the second, is a copy of the police report I filed for $50,000. For felon forgear, it has your name on it. The color drained from her face. My father, Scott, who had been silent, just shook his head. Speechless. Staring at the floor. Brenda just crumbled. She didn't faint. She just slid down the doorframe and landed in a heap on my doormat. The papers scattered around her. No. She whispered. No. 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 You wouldn't. I looked down at her. The anger was gone. The hurt was gone. There was just nothing. An empty space where a family used to be. Goodbye. Brenda, I said, and I gently closed the door. The case was settled out of court. It was a very simple, very cold transaction. Julia was brilliant. Faced with an ironclad felony forgery charge, which carried a minimum sentence. Brenda and Scott had no leverage. They signed everything. They signed the house over to my LLC immediately, forfeiting all claims. They signed a confession of the $50,000 debt. In exchange, I agreed not to pursue criminal charges. I didn't want them in jail. I just wanted them gone. The house sold in less than a month. The money, every cent I had poured into that property, plus the stolen $50,000, was wired back into my account. I heard from a distant cousin that Morgan, without her penthouse or her American Express card, had been forced to get an actual job. She was a receptionist at a dental office. Her literary blog was a dead link. My father and mother moved into a small, rented condo in a different city. A week later, I got a formal, professional email from Dylan, the CEO. It was addressed to Ms. Vance. He apologized profusely for his brief association with my family and asked if I would consider resubmitting my latest manuscript. He said he understood if I chose a different publisher, but he hoped I wouldn't. I told him I'd have my agent send it over. That night, I sat at my desk. I opened my laptop and found a file I hadn't opened in weeks. It was an old spreadsheet. The file name was simply Family Costs. I opened it. It was a meticulous, decade-long record of my sacrifice. 10 years of wire transfers, tuition payments, car loans, mortgage payments, bailouts, 10 years of trying to buy their love. I scrolled down to the bottom, to the final, sickening number in the total column. I stared at that number for a long time. The cost of my mistake. The price of my freedom. Then I moved my cursor, highlighted the entire file, and I pressed delete. A small box popped up. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this file? I clicked yes. And that night, for the first time in 10 years, I slept all the way through until morning. No guilt. No noise. I was free.